Build your engine and activate the right actions on the right street to build the Flatiron Building in Flatiron.
And today we'll be teaching you how to play Flatiron, game designed by the famous duo Isra C and Shay S, and published by Ludonova.
And hello everyone, it's Stella.
And Taryn from Meeple University.
And hey, if you enjoyed the video, you'll really help us by liking it, let us know what you think, and subscribe. Like, seriously, that would help us to bring more videos. Okay, now let's get to the classroom.
In Flatiron, two players are competing architects, working against each other to contribute best to the construction of the famous New York skyscraper. Players will take it in turns to move around the city, purchasing cards to improve their actions, strategically purchasing and placing pillars into the tower, finding objectives and other point scoring methods around City Hall, and ultimately working to build the tower up. The game ends once the roof of the tower has been built, and the player with the most points will be the winner. To set up, lay out the three boards: City Hall, the City Block, and the scoreboard. Shuffle up the four starter floors and place one into the City Block to begin the tower. Then shuffle the remaining three starters back into the full deck of floors. Create a stack in City Hall featuring the roof piece and four other floors face down, returning the rest to the box, and flip the top floor face up. This will end up being the next floor built into the tower. Shuffle the newspapers face down and flip one face up into this slot. This is called the active newspaper. Separate the 32 street cards into 4 decks of 8 based on the streets listed on their backs, that is, on the yellow side. Then shuffle each deck separately and place it face up into its matching street. And to be clear, this means the street matching the back of the card, not the street matching the front. Within each of these decks, you'll find 4 cards which match its own street, 2 cards matching the next street clockwise, and 1 card matching each other street. Shuffle up the City Hall decree cards and place 6 of them face up beside City Hall, returning the rest to the box. These are the endgame objectives that will be in play, and you can see them all from the start of the game. Give each player an architect meeple and a random player board flipped to its matching coloured side. There are 4 different boards, each showing the streets and the pillar colours in a different order. And that's going to cause some interesting differences between the economies of one action versus another for the 2 players in the game. Place both players' score markers at 0 on the score track, and place the paperboy meeple at 10. Keep the supplies of money, reputation tokens, and pillars in 4 different colours nearby. Money is considered unlimited, the other components are limited to the number which come with the game. Choose a first player who collects $7, while the second player takes 9. You're now ready to play. Flatiron is played in turns, starting from the first player and going back and forward until all floors and the roof of the building have been constructed. The game is a continuous worker placement game, using your architect meeples as workers. And there are 5 worker placement spaces: 5th Avenue, 22nd Street, 23rd Street, Broadway, and City Hall. On your first turn, you'll place your worker from your player board to an empty space and resolve an action there. And on all subsequent turns, you must move your worker from its current location to a new unoccupied one. That means on any given turn, you'll have 3 choices of where to go to take your actions. In each of the 5 locations, there are 3 options for what you can do, and you choose one of the 3. These are gain $2, buy a card, or resolve actions. Gain $2 is very simple and works the same way in all locations. Simply take $2 from the supply. The second option is buy a card. When you visit a street, you may buy the top card in that street stack. Pay the money cost printed in the top right corner. Here it's $1. And for all street cards, it's either going to be $1 or $2. Now take the card and install it either above or below your player board in the slot matching the street on the front of the card, not the street on the back. If you slot above, this will cover the lower half of the card, and likewise if you slot below, the upper half will be covered. You cannot move a card once it's been placed, and you can't slot more than 3 cards in any single street. As it's laid out here, 23rd Street is the only remaining block where green could install cards. When you choose to buy a card at City Hall, the cost is always $3. Choose any one of the face-up decree cards, and again add it either above or below the board in any one of the streets of your choice. You're still limited to a total of 3 cards per street, and you're also limited to at most 1 decree per street. Adding cards to your player board has 2 implications. The first is the reputation of each street. At the end of the game, you'll separately add up the positive and negative reputation numbers on each card within each street. Cards which are stronger within the game tend to have lower reputation, cards which are weaker have positive. A street with a net positive reputation will score 5 points. A street with net negative will lose 3, and a neutral street scores nothing. As such, the choice and way you align strong and weak cards could be worth anything between positive 20 and negative 12 points at game's end. The second implication of these cards is that it sets the action tableau you create for a resolve actions turn, which is what we'll talk about now. When you visit a street, if you spend your turn resolving actions, then find that street on your player board and resolve each action on a street card or on the board itself from top to bottom. Here with Fifth Avenue, I have 3 actions to resolve. You don't resolve decree cards, they're only for the end of the game. Each action is optional, but the order is not. You can't skip over one and then come back to it later in your turn. The core actions which relate to constructing the building are all printed on your player board. Each player has these same 7 actions, although they'll be associated with different streets and different cost color combinations, while the action in the 8th slot is an individual player power unique to each board. The top row is all about buying or selling pillars. When you take one of these actions, if your pillar storage space is empty, then you may pay that pillar's cost and take one from the supply. If the pillar's storage space is full, then you may return it to the supply and gain a refund in money. There's no money to be gained by buying or selling using the standard actions because the cost and refund price are always the same. But when combined with some of the card actions and other effect, there are ways to trade to make profit. This card would let me buy any pillar I don't currently have for a cost of 2, which I could then sell with my next action for 3 to make a profit. This action lets me swap a pillar I already have for one of a different colour, increasing its value for a sales profit. And there can be other passive effects in play. At any given time, the central effect on the top visible floor of the Flatiron Building is in effect for both players, and in this one, for example, the purchase price of any pillar by any action is reduced by 1. Your 2 middle bottom actions allow you to build pillars into the building. In the second column, you'll pay $1 to build 1 pillar, and then in the third column, pay $3 and then build 2 pillars, resolving the first in full before resolving the second. You may use this action to build only a single pillar, but the cost will still be the full $3. To build, take 1 pillar from your storage, place it onto an empty one of the 3 pillar spaces, gain the benefit covered, and immediately gain victory points based on the colour of pillar you built. As you can see from your board, your more expensive pillars are also the ones which will score you the most points. There are 4 different colours of pillar, and each pillar on a given floor must be a different colour. Street cards offer a few variations. This one is still $1 to build one pillar, but it lets you build pillars of the same colour on this floor. This lets you build a pillar for $2 with 1 extra bonus point, and this lets you build 2 pillars for $3 with 2 extra bonus points. The last standard action is to build a new floor on the building. To do this, you must pay $5, and there must already be 3 pillars on this floor. Now take the next floor from the display and stack it onto the pillars. This changes the Flatiron's passive effect, and you flip the next Flatiron tile up so you can see what's coming next. Refresh all of the street card decks by moving the top card to the bottom, and score 6 points. There are some street cards which offer variations. These simply reduce the cost and the payout of victory points. So those are the core building actions. Other actions you'll come across include gaining money. These cards simply grant you the printed amount of money. This one gains you $1 for each floor currently in the tower, including the ground floor and roof. This means the payout increases from $1 to as much as $6 by the game's end. This one grants you money based on your current score. For every one of these paperboy icons you've crossed, which you'll find at 10, 20, 30, 40 and 50 points, you gain $1. Other ways to gain money include the passive effects. Here, for example, each time I went to Fifth Avenue, I would gain $1. Effects like these let you accumulate victory points. This one is worth 1 point for every 2 levels currently built in the tower. Again, including ground floor and roof. So this begins at 0 and can get as high as 3. This is worth 2 points if, when you resolve the action, there is an orange pillar already built in the active floor. These let you pay $1 to resolve an action from City Hall or any other action on your player board or cards, respectively. You still pay the full cost of the action. If I used this effect to take this action, the total cost would be 4. The last types of actions relate to the game's newspapers. At any time, there'll be one newspaper face up in City Hall called the active newspaper. And if you visit City Hall, then instead of buying a decree or taking $2, you may activate the action on the active newspaper. Taking this card action, or resolving the bonus from this pillar space, also gives you this action. Players can also own their own newspapers. When you gain this pillar bonus, take a random newspaper from the supply. And when either player reaches or passes the space currently containing the paperboy, that player draws and looks at 2 newspaper tokens, keeping 1 for themselves and giving 1 to the other player, before moving the paperboy 10 spaces forward. This can happen at most 5 times before the paperboy is removed from the game. At any point on your turn, before or after an action, but not in the middle of one, you can play one of your newspaper tokens, resolving the effect. Then the tile you've played becomes the new active tile at City Hall, while the old active tile is removed from the game. If you time these swap outs correctly, you can disrupt your opponent's plans. A few other icons and rules. Some effects will allow you to purchase a street card without being on a street. And when this happens, you can buy any one of the top street cards visible, regardless of your architect's position. When such an effect tells you to get a white card, it's a street card. For a brown card, it's a decree. On a floor with this central icon, victory point placement bonuses are gained only if the pillar placed matches the colour of the space. The other type of bonus you may gain is a reputation token. When you gain this, take 1 reputation token from the supply, if still available, and store it beside your board. At the end of the game, assign it to one of the 4 streets, and it will factor into the final calculation of whether that street scores positive, negative, or neutral. There's a few other icons you'll come across, all of which are explained in the rulebook. The game ends at the end of the turn in which the roof is built. You'll now proceed to final scoring. Start with the points you've collected through the game. To that, and after assigning reputation tokens, gain or lose points for the reputation of each street. 5 for a positive reputation, -3 for negative reputation, and 0 if it's neutral. Remember, you lose the same points for -1 or -6 reputation, so take that into account as you build your tableau. Finally, score points for the objectives on each of your decree cards. Anything else you have left over, like money or pillars, is worth nothing unless you have a decree which scores them. The player with the highest score wins, and in the event of a tie, whoever built the roof breaks the tie. And that's how to play Flatiron.
Thanks so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, let me know and share this video if you enjoyed, and hopefully you have a great day. See you next time.